My name is Ava Morgan. I am 33. On Father's Day weekend in June at the Greenwich Country Club, my father, Richard Morgan, chief executive of Morgan Ridge Capital, drives his fist into my cheek while my sister-in-law Lena is live streaming. My mother Catherine laughs, my brother Justin claps. I taste blood, feel the room tilt, and keep standing. Richard has practiced quiet cruelty for years. He lectures about legacy and control. Catherine polishes every scene so nothing looks wrong. Justin collects praise and perks and calls it merit. When a crisis hits, they do worse. They deny, minimize, and tell me that ethics are a weakness. They call me dramatic and tell me to be grateful. They have no idea what I have been building. In New York, I lead ethics and compliance at a fintech. I do not chase attention. I study patterns. I verify before I speak. I keep a clean chain of custody for every file and photograph. I log names, dates, numbers, locations. I have the footage from the club, the medical notes, and a plan that fits the facts. 3 calls will move the truth into daylight, and none of them require me to raise my voice. This is not revenge. This is respect, justice, and boundaries. It is the end of a pattern that should have ended years ago. Subscribe before you hear the shocking ending. But they did not know what I was building. I do not become the family fixer in a single season. It happens over years, one small ask at a time, until my worth is measured by how quickly I solve other people's problems. Richard sets the tone. Catherine manages the optics. Justin basks in it. I learn to carry the weight and to take notes. The first clear memory lands in May 2006. I am 14 and obsessed with numbers. Justin is 17 and obsessed with cars. He misses payments on a used coupe, and Richard pays off the balance in one check for $9,200. He calls it a lesson in responsibility. That same week, I get into a summer math program that costs $1,800. Catherine tells the coordinator that I will sit this one out. She says it might make me odd. Justin gets a set of tires and a pat on the back. I get a quiet dinner and a new chore list. September 2010. I win a state economics award with a travel stipend of $400. The ceremony is on a Friday night. Richard says judges lower standards for girls and suggests I iron Justin a shirt for his internship interview. He buys Justin a watch for $400 to celebrate potential. My certificate goes into a drawer in the sideboard. I straighten the bow on a floral centerpiece and pretend that is enough. April 2016. A sloppy, charitable deduction triggers an unexpected tax penalty on the Greenwich house. It is a paperwork mess that could turn into a lien. No one wants the optics. I draft a letter, schedule a call, and negotiate the penalty down. I pay $18,400 from my own savings to clear it fast. Catherine thanks me at a luncheon by praising Justin's financial savvy. I drive back to the city with a tight jaw and a thinner account, and I start a folder on my laptop. I name it Memory. Inside, I store emails, receipts, and notes with dates and amounts. It is not revenge. It is record keeping. It helps me breathe. December 2019. Justin asks me to build a budget model for his team at Morgan Ridge Capital. He calls it a quick favor. It takes 36 hours over 3 late nights. He presents it as his own work and pockets a $45,000 bonus. He posts about hustle culture. I do not correct him. I upload my drafts and timestamps to the memory folder, and I add a line to my ledger. Hours worked. Result realized by someone else. Dollar value. $45,000. The pattern is stable. Sundays, I drive the Merritt Parkway Park under the maples and step through a door framed by perfect white columns. Inside, I become the person who makes things stop burning. The printer jams, and I clear the tray. The oven runs hot, and I recalibrate it. A cousin is behind on student loans, and I outline an income-driven plan. Ella starts piano, and the lesson invoice gets lost, so I pay the $200 and text Lena the schedule. A niece needs a laptop for school, and I send $300 through Zelle. I leave with empty hands and a new list. At the table, I learn the rules. Metrics from my world mean nothing if they do not come with a scoreboard Richard respects. When I say my team reduced duplicate vendor spend by 12% in the first quarter, he says real leaders close deals. When I say we cut risk incident time by 40%, Catherine tells me to smile more and eat more. When I say ethics drives growth, Justin laughs and calls spreadsheets cute. I switch to simple sentences that carry facts and no decoration. It changes nothing. I become the reliable one by design. I keep a running budget and a to-do list for other people's emergencies. My spreadsheet includes line items like rush Taylor bill for a gala late fee on a storage unit and emergency HVAC call after a party. Total for 2021 is $3,600 out of pocket. 2022 is $4,200. I could ask for reimbursement. I do not. I document instead. I email myself copies and let the timestamps lock them in. Work is a different world. I pass certifications and take on responsibilities that would scare most people my age. On February 12, 2024, I add a risk assurance credential. On March 5, I finalize a compliance integration playbook that saves $200,000 a year. On April 22, we close a gap analysis that trims response time by 40%. I run audits like campaigns. I love clean logs and clear outcomes. I write sharp. I speak calm. I win ground by making better systems. Back in Greenwich, I am ornamental. I pour water. I carry dessert. I get asked about my dating life in front of people who are not curious so much as entertained. When I mention leadership, Catherine tilts her head and asks if I am eating enough. When I talk about a successful mock exam my team runs, Richard reminds me that legacies are built by risk takers, not rule keepers. I swallow the comment about how many fortunes die from unforced errors. I smile, then I drive home with my hands at 10 and 2. The ledger grows. I track not just money, but patterns. Who calls when there is a crisis? Who calls when there is a win? What tone each person uses when I say no. Most of the time, I still say yes. Old habits and a younger version of myself hate to disappoint anyone. I carry the family's stress like a bag I forgot to put down. Then without drama, I begin to lighten the load. Small changes first. I set a rule that all requests for help come by text or email so I can track them. I ask for lead time. I decline last-minute asks that are not emergencies. I add a line to my auto-reply that says I will respond during business hours. I buy a fireproof document box and place key papers in order. Birth certificates, mortgage documents, my own insurance policies. I add a printed summary of account numbers and emergency contacts. I store a flash drive with encrypted backups next to it. This is not paranoia. It is protocol. I also get clearer with myself about what I want. I want work that matters and pays me for the weight I carry. I want friends who show up and laugh loud and leave the kitchen cleaner than they found it. I want Sundays that are mine. I want to be treated like an adult who has a spine and a schedule. When these wants meet the old pattern flinches. Justin's glow begins to flicker long before anyone admits it. He misses 2 quarters by a narrow margin and blames market conditions. He asks me to sit in on a prep call and whispers that he needs my calm voice. I give him a simple framework and he uses it well. He forgets to say thank you. Catherine starts to mention the cost of their club dues. She covers a laugh with a cough and changes the subject. Richard talks louder and pours heavier scotch and tells louder war stories. The center holds, but it creaks. I keep building my life with intention. I increase my emergency fund to $185,000. I raise my 401k contribution. I renew the lease on my 1-bedroom because predictable overhead is a gift when you are planning a move. I start to look at 2-bedroom apartments in buildings with doormen and cameras. I do not pull the trigger yet. I am not moving from something. I am moving towards something. The reliability role does not fade because I ask it to. It fades because I stop doing unpaid labor that props up bad habits. When a debt collector calls about a storage unit in Justin's name, I reply that I am not the account holder and end the call. When Catherine needs a last-minute ride to a fundraiser across town, I send her the number of a car service. When Richard wants me to review a contract at midnight, I say send it in the morning and I will look at it after lunch. He calls me ungrateful and I hang up. I write down the time and move on. There is a point where I realize the only approval I still want is mine. It is not a dramatic moment. It happens on a Tuesday in line at a deli as I am reading an article about a firm that lost $1 billion in client assets because someone in power decided that truth could be massaged. I recognize the pattern in the article, then I recognize the pattern at home. I decide to stop smoothing things that should be rough. I decide to let consequences stick to the people who earn them. I keep the evidence that my role has never been a figment. Screenshots of texts requesting money transfers. Emails with subject lines like, "Can you fix this by Friday?" Photos of receipts for things I bought because a deadline did not care who paid. I store them with the calm of a person who knows that documentation is not a weapon. It is an anchor. By early June, the family is planning a large reunion at the Greenwich Country Club for Father's Day weekend. The guest list hits 40. The menu is set. The name cards are printed. The country club lawn has never looked more precise. I plan my schedule. I confirm my hotel backup in case I need space after. I tell myself I will not chase approval. I will state facts if asked. I will leave if disrespected. I will not raise my voice. I also know something they do not. I know my industry is watching Morgan Ridge Capital more closely this quarter. I know the earnings call is set for June 30 at 9 in the morning. I know a few former employees have started to talk in public spaces about return composites and fee schedules. I do not predict what will happen. I only note that the wind is shifting and that I am steady. I drive up the parkway on that Saturday in June and park under the maples. I smooth my dress and walk past the fountain. I can smell lemon polish and summer flowers. I feel the old roll tug at my sleeve fixer and peacekeeper, but I keep my hands at my sides. But they do not know what I am building, and that is when everything changes. Saturday, June 15 to 4:30 in the afternoon. The Greenwich Country Club smells like lemon polish and old wood. 40 relatives circle linen tables under a chandelier. Richard takes the center seat. Catherine to his left, Justin to his right. My place card sits near the end. I remind myself of my rule. State facts, ask for nothing, leave if disrespected. When the main course lands, I speak in a steady voice. I share that I have accepted a larger ethics and compliance leadership role in New York. I explain that my remit includes oversight of brokers, custodians, and vendors that sometimes intersect with Morgan Ridge Capital. I am precise, so there is no confusion. It is not his firm. It is not his table. It is my career. Richard freezes. He calls it betrayal. He says I built this on inside knowledge gathered at family dinners. Catherine urges me to call in the morning and decline. Justin laughs and calls me impulsive. I do not match their heat. I state the record. I built my career without their network. I keep clean lines between personal life and professional duty. I will not decline. Richard stands. His chair scrapes the floor. The room quiets in the way rooms quiet when a storm moves through a doorframe. He walks the length of the table. 12 seconds later, his fist hits my left cheek. The chandelier does not flicker. The sky outside stays blue. In the video, which Lena streams to a few hundred followers, Catherine laughs her tight social laugh and says, "Not at dinner." Justin claps once and mutters, "Serves you right." No one stands. No one brings ice. I stand up by myself. I walk out the side door and into the soft June light. I drive 10 minutes to a hotel off the parkway. I check in with my bruised side turned from the desk clerk. I lock the door and breathe. I am not a victim in this room. I am a professional who knows what to do with facts. I set my phone on the desk and open the camera. I take photographs from 3 angles with timestamps visible. I write a detailed account while sensory details are fresh. The plate color, the seat map, the exact words. I email the notes to myself and to a vault account that preserves versions. I add the photos and a short cover note that reads incident log. I back up everything twice. I do not dramatize. I document. I list next steps like I do at work. Medical documentation, protective order, regulatory intake, media plan under embargo, credit freeze, new phone, hotel rotation. I map names to seats so witnesses are not guesses later. I write a line and circle it. Public assault during a live stream with 40 witnesses. Evidence exists and is preserved. I open a folder on my laptop labeled Diligence. I have built it over 3 years as part of my own growth, not to trap anyone, to see patterns clearly when rumors and numbers collide. Inside are public complaints that clients filed with state agencies. There are investor decks downloaded from conference sites that show return claims. There are emails and spreadsheets that third parties sent me voluntarily after legal screening because they wanted someone ethical to see them. There are notes from calls where former employees described fee schedules that drifted above disclosures by 40 to 80 basis points. There are screenshots of Slack messages that suggest people were told to split transactions to avoid a reporting threshold. None of this comes from any Morgan Ridge system. None of it is my employer's property. I have not breached a control. I have collected what citizens and clients can lawfully collect, and I am ready to hand it to the people who have the authority to test it. But they do not know what I am building. They think I speak only in feelings. They forget that I run my life the way I run an audit. Clear scope, clean evidence, calm delivery. I set Sunday as my action day. 11 in the morning, I will call Michael Chen at the Securities and Exchange Commission. He and I met at a compliance conference in 2022. He understands chain of custody. He understands that I am not making claims beyond what I can support. 1 in the afternoon, I will call the District Attorney Domestic Violence Unit. I will request an emergency protective order. I will send the photographs and the seat map. I will include a copy of the hotel receipt. 3 in the afternoon, I will call Money Under Oath, the finance podcast that vets documents and gives whistleblowers a safe lane. I will ask for a 3-part series under embargo. I will give them dates and numbers and insist on verification. I add one more line to my plan. Confirm the public calendar. The Morgan Ridge Capital Earnings Call is posted for Sunday, June 30 at 9 in the morning. If the podcast wants part 1 to land, it should publish at 8. I do not need spectacle. I need timing that reveals truth while people are listening. I lay out my clothes for the morning. I set 3 alarms. I place ice in a washcloth and hold it to my cheek. The room hums with the air unit and nothing else. I do not replay the punch. I replay the plan. This is not revenge. This is respect, justice, and boundaries. That is when everything changes. The first call will move the truth into daylight. The second will make me safe. The third will make sure the story does not get buried. What happens next shocks everyone. Sunday morning begins with a list and a clock. At 11, I call Michael Chen at the Securities and Exchange Commission. I speak in clear sentences. I describe the assault at the country club. I state that a video exists and that there were 40 witnesses. I explain that I hold public documents and third-party materials about possible fee inflation and return smoothing at Morgan Ridge Capital. I emphasize chain of custody and scope. He opens an intake and gives me a case number. He asks for copies and for a written timeline. We set an in-person meeting for Monday at 11 at a coffee shop near his office. I send a secure link with my memo, the seat map, the photographs with timestamps, and a catalog of every document source. I label each item with date, location, and origin. I keep one line in my notes to remind myself of the rule. I will not state more than I can prove. At 1, I call the District Attorney Domestic Violence Unit. I tell them what happened and where. I send the photographs, the hotel invoice, and the seat map with names. I list witnesses by table. I read back exact quotes. The prosecutor on duty files for an emergency protective order. By 6, the order is granted. Service is scheduled for Monday. The order bars contact by phone, text, email, and in person. It includes my home and my workplace. The clerk gives me a docket number. I write it down and read it back. I feel my breath settle. At 3, I call Money Under Oath, the podcast that investigates misconduct in finance. I ask for a 3-part series under embargo. I propose a schedule that puts part 1 the morning of the Morgan Ridge Capital Earnings Call. The investor relations site lists June 30 at 9 a.m. I suggest 8 a.m. for the episode. They agree to consider it if verification lands in time. I make one ask. Fact check everything and publish only what you can stand behind. They say that is how they work. I say that is why I called. Then I do what I do best. I build controls. I freeze my credit with all 3 bureaus. I place a fraud alert. I switch to a new phone and number and keep the old one powered on for evidence. I book hotels in 3-night rotations under my initials. I mirror my vault to 2 encrypted backups. I print a hard copy of key items and place them in a fireproof box. I create a witness log with names, roles, and likely leverage points. I write an event timeline with columns for time, action, source, and proof. I accept that none of this is dramatic. It is thorough. It is how truth survives pressure. On Monday at 11, I meet Michael in a quiet corner of a coffee shop. He sees the bruise even under concealer. He asks first about my safety. He takes notes. I hand him a drive with the same file tree as the secure link. He scans the index and asks clarifying questions. We speak in terms that both of us understand: preservation, materiality, relevance. He confirms that none of my materials came from inside Morgan Ridge Systems or from my employer. He explains next steps. His team will issue requests. If grounds appear, subpoenas will follow. He reminds me that this can take time, then tells me that careful work is the only work that lasts. I walk out with a copy of my submission receipt and a simple goal: keep documenting, keep calm. By late afternoon, the sheriff serves the protective order. I get a time-stamped notice. An hour later, I receive 2 blocked calls. I do not pick up. The voicemail records a short burst of anger and a claim that I am ruining a legacy. I forward the audio to the prosecutor. No emotion, just the file and the time. I go to urgent care for medical documentation. The physician notes swelling and a laceration. He asks if I feel safe. I say I do tonight. He prints the report. I add it to the timeline and label it by hour. I ask for copies of the photographs he takes. He hands them to me with a nod. I thank him and walk out, steady on my feet. Meanwhile, the family performs the script they know. Catherine calls from 2 numbers and leaves messages about privacy and family loyalty. Justin calls 17 times in one day. The first messages are sharp. The last few are frantic. He asks if I understand what I have done. He says I am overreacting. He says I should come home and smooth it over. I forward nothing except the items that violate the order. I let silence do more work than any speech could. I track the money side of my own life. My emergency fund stands at $185,000. My credit score reads 812. My rent is steady. My monthly net is strong. I list hotel costs and car service receipts so I can see the runway in weeks and months. I list the names of friends who have keys to my new place. I stack facts so fear cannot invent its own numbers. Day 4 brings the first outside ripples. 2 former Morgan Ridge employees reach out to the podcast after hearing whispers that an investigation may be open. The producers connect them with me only to confirm contact info. I do not interview them. I do not coach them. I send their names to Michael with their permission and step back. I do not want to contaminate any record. I take one lesson from work and apply it here. Let the right people do their jobs. Day 6. I receive confirmation that Morgan Ridge Investor Relations has posted the call details again. June 30 at 9 a.m. Eastern. The schedule is firm. The podcast team emails me their plan. They will release part 1 at 8 a.m. if legal clears. They have a client willing to go on the record to say reported returns did not match statements in 2 years. They have 2 employees on background and 1 on the record. They have the country club video from Lena's stream saved and time-stamped. They have a comment from the company that calls the claims false and malicious. They ask me again if I want my name in the episode. I say, not yet. The assault case will be public. The financial claims should stand on their own evidence. Day 10, an article lands. A financial outlet publishes a piece titled "Questions Emerge Over Client Fee Practices at Morgan Ridge Capital." It lists years, products, and examples. It cites former employees and 2 clients. It does not name me. The stock drops 14% by close. I do not post. I do not call. I log the sequence and add the price move to my timeline. 3 days later, I get the call. The podcast confirms that Part 1 clears legal and will publish at 8 a.m. on June 30. They ask for a short statement. I send 1 paragraph that says I am cooperating with authorities, that violence is not a private matter, and that clients and employees deserve honesty. It uses clean nouns and verbs and no heat. They say it reads like a professional wrote it. I say good. That same day, 2 sponsors for the Father's Day Gala ask for meetings with the club. They do not want their names next to a headline that grows by the hour. Catherine texts a long message about optics. She tells me to think of the family name. I do not reply. I forward nothing. I go for a walk along the river and count boats until my shoulders drop. By week 2, the investigation has a life separate from me. Michael's team issues document requests. Justice coordinates. The podcast team works their list. Former staff talk to each other and decide who will step forward. The pattern that held for decades begins to loosen. I do not touch any of it. I keep my lane. I keep my receipts in order. I sleep more than I expect. But they still do not know what I am building. They think this will blow over if they outweight me. They do not see the calendar on my wall. That is when everything changes. The date on that calendar is June 38 a.m. for the episode, 9 a.m. for the call. I sit at my kitchen table with a mug of mint tea and a legal pad. I am ready for the moment where proof meets audience. What happens next shocks everyone. I do not wait for chaos to set the stage. I design it. On Wednesday, June 26, I ask the court to set a mediation on the assault case for Saturday, June 29 at 3 p.m. in Stamford Superior Court. The clerk confirms the time and the room. The Greenwich Country Club has already postponed the Father's Day Gala to that same Saturday at 7 p.m. after sponsor calls rattled the board. 2 sponsors have paused support. 1 has withdrawn. Catherine is still listed as honorary chair, but the board will review her role at the event. There will be eyes on every hallway. On Thursday, June 27, I send letters through council to the 2 remaining gala sponsors and to the scholarship fund named for my grandfather. I include public documents, docket numbers, and the country club video with timestamps. I do not accuse anyone. I ask if they wish to be associated with these facts. The fund replies that it will suspend Catherine's honorary chair for the season. 1 sponsor pauses its gift. The other asks for a meeting with the club. I log each action and file each reply. Friday, June 28. The investor relations page still shows the Morgan Ridge Capital earnings call for Sunday, June 30 at 9 a.m. Eastern. I confirm with the podcast team that part 1 will publish at 8 a.m. We set the copy. We cut any line that leans on emotion rather than proof. My statement reads in 1 paragraph that I am cooperating with authorities, that violence is not a private matter, and that clients and employees deserve honesty. Clean nouns, clean verbs, no heat. The producers say it is ready. Saturday morning, June 29. I wake before the alarms. I review my timeline. I pack a simple bag. I put a crisp copy of the protective order in a folder. I print a seating map from the country club and the list of witnesses with phone numbers. I take the train to Stamford and walk to the courthouse with a steady pace. The air is heavy and bright. Reporters wait by the steps for another case. They see me and glance at my cheek, now faded yellow under concealer. I keep my eyes forward. At 3 p.m., Richard sits across the table in a conference room with a neutral carpet and a humming vent. His lawyer is on his right. My lawyer is on my left. The mediator explains the rules and asks for opening statements. I speak first. I state the date and location of the assault. I note the protective order and the documented violations. I hand over my packet with photographs, the hotel invoice, the seating map, and a log of calls. I keep my sentences short and precise. I do not look at Richard when I read the line "not at dinner." I look at the mediator and the clock. Richard leans back and says the line that has worked on our family for 30 years. "You are nothing without us." The room goes quiet. The court reporter's keys click. I do not rush. I let the words fail in the air. Then I say, "We are done here." My lawyer thanks the mediator and asks for a note in the record that settlement was not reached. We stand, we leave. Calm is its own power. At 5 p.m., the country club posts a short notice. The gala will proceed with a reduced program and an ethics review underway. Catherine is removed as honorary chair for the season. Her name comes off the program. The announcement is taped to a glass door where members line up for valet. People read it, glance around, and pretend they are just checking a schedule. I receive a text from a friend inside the club with a photo of the notice. I add it to my file. By 7 p.m., guests arrive in summer black tie. The floral arch is smaller than planned. The string quartet plays a quieter set. I do not attend. I do not need to be in the room to understand what a title stripped in public does to a person who lives for optics. I sit at my kitchen table with mint tea and a legal pad. I check boxes on my list. Mediation completed. Sponsor letters filed. Club notice posted. Evidence preserved. I sleep well. Sunday, June 38 a.m. Part 1 of Money Under Oath goes live. The episode states facts only. It outlines fee schedules that drifted 40 to 80 basis points above disclosures for certain products. It cites years and product names. It interviews a client who says reported returns did not match statements in 2 calendar years. It includes the country club video time-stamped and stabilized with a short content warning. My 1-paragraph statement plays at the end. The host reminds listeners that regulators have opened a review. 9 a.m., investors dial into the earnings call. I listen with my notebook open. The operator reads the script. Richard thanks everyone and begins prepared remarks. Within minutes, the first analyst asks why composite performance diverged from client statements in 2021 and 2022. The second asks about internal controls over fee calculation. The third asks whether a preservation notice has been issued. Richard pauses. Counsel whispers. He says the questions are based on false premises and that the company will not comment on ongoing matters. The call ends early. By 10:15, the stock is down 21%. By close, it is down 38% week over week and 62% from a month earlier. I write the numbers in the margin and underline the timestamps. At 11:15, the prosecutor calls. The judge has signed a warrant for violating the protective order based on recorded calls and messages. Service will occur today. I forward the memo to my lawyer and go for a walk along the river to wait the only way I know how to wait. I count boats. I breathe in and out. 12:10 cameras gather outside Morgan Ridge Capital headquarters. Employees step back as sheriffs walk Richard through the lobby and out to the sidewalk. It is a short walk and a long clip. Reporters ask about fee practices and the court order. He looks at the ground. The footage airs at noon. I do not watch it live. I log the time that the first alert hits my phone and add the link to the file. By late afternoon, the board releases a statement that a special committee will review compliance practices and cooperate fully with regulators. Analysts issue notes about client flight and litigation reserves. 2 former employees go on the record in a trade publication and describe a culture where performance was massaged and dissent was punished. My inbox fills with messages from people I have never met who say they once stayed quiet in rooms where they should have spoken. I read a few. I archive most. I do not become the story. I keep pointing back to the documents. Catherine calls from an unknown number. She does not mention the arrest or the club notice. She tells me I am risking my job. I tell her I disclosed all potential conflicts to my employer before I accepted any new responsibility. I tell her transparency is policy and habit. She goes quiet. She asks what I want. I say accountability. Then I say nothing else. Power moves are simple when you take the drama out of them. I own the receipts they cannot bury. I control the timeline they thought they owned. I can choose what to hand to investigators today and what to hold until they ask. I can release a calm statement that cuts through noise. I do not threaten. I do not bluff. I let facts land where they belong. The family cycles through the stages in public now. Shock when the episode drops. Denial on the call. Anger in a voicemail that violates a court order. Panic at noon on a sidewalk. Desperation by dinner when lawyers begin to talk about liquidity and control. Justin leaves 3 messages in an hour. He says, I do not understand what I have done. He says the company can bounce back if I stop. He says, I am breaking the family. I save the files. I do not reply. 3 days later, I get the call. The board has voted no confidence. Richard is out. An interim chief takes the chair. A sale process will begin within weeks. Employees will keep jobs through transition, then be reassigned or offered packages. There is nothing for me to say that matters more than those sentences. I write them down line by line and close the notebook. But they still do not know what comes next. The exit is not the ending. It is the start of a different ledger. In part 6, the consequences settle, and the life I build after all of this begins. 2 weeks pass, then I get the call. The board accepts Richard's resignation and signs a letter of intent to sell Morgan Ridge Capital to a larger firm. Terms are not public, but the price sits far below last year's valuation. Most of the proceeds will go to a settlement reserve and to legal fees. I write the time and the number of the press release in my log. I note that the special committee will continue to cooperate with regulators. I breathe once and get back to work. July moves in measured steps. The district attorney files a formal charge for assault. My protective order is extended for a full year. Violations will mean arrest without delay. I attend 1 hearing. The courtroom is open to the public. A reporter sits 3 rows back. I do not speak. I let the record speak. That is when everything changes. Process becomes the story, not emotion. By the last week of July, the justice team issues subpoenas. Michael's office confirms that document productions are underway. I do not handle any of it. I keep my lane. I answer questions when asked. I forward any new messages that violate the order. I save every timestamp. I sleep more hours than I have in years. 3 weeks later, I get the call. An investigator with a separate unit wants to confirm the identity theft report tied to the blocked credit attempt in my name. I provide my notes the alert from the Bureau and my fraud freeze confirmation. They already have logs that trace the application to a device at Justin's office. I do not add color, I add dates. In September, he enters a diversion program. He pleads to a misdemeanor count and agrees to restitution and community service. The order bars him from any account in my name. He relocates to another state for work with a relative. He stops posting for a while. I write one line and move on. The sale closes in early October. The buyer keeps most employees through transition, then reshapes the firm. Clients receive letters that outline new controls. A preliminary settlement fund of $250 million is announced for the class action. A second pool is set aside for regulatory penalties and restitution. Assets under management have fallen by $1.1 billion since June. The stock that once sat at a proud number now fades into a footnote. Richard's title disappears from the website. He pleads to a felony securities fraud count and accepts probation fines and a permanent bar from leading a registered firm. He completes an anger management program as a condition of his plea. Cameras wait outside the courthouse on sentencing day. I walk in a side door and sit in the back row. The judge reads the terms. The clerk records them. I feel something unclench that has lived in my chest since childhood. Catherine files for divorce in November. The country club confirms that her honorary roles will remain suspended for the season and subject to review next year. The scholarship fund named for my grandfather removes her from public materials. She calls once from a new number. She asks what I want. I say accountability and quiet. She sends a letter 2 weeks later that begins with blame and ends with a line about learning what respect looks like. I place it in a folder named Boundaries and close the drawer. Lena loses brand deals when sponsors decide to wait out the noise. She pivots to a channel about rebuilding and posts a video about learning from mistakes. She does not mention the live stream. Ella starts therapy with a counselor who talks with children about safety and trust. I pick her up at the park one Saturday in December. We count dogs for 20 minutes and eat small cookies on a bench. I keep my voice light. I answer the questions she asks and nothing more. I will protect her privacy the way no one protected mine. Work remains steady. My employer does not punish me for telling the truth. They trust me with more. I lead a firm-wide refresh of vendor controls. I launch a training series called Boundaries Pay Dividends. I build a small workshop outside of work hours, the Compliance Academy, that teaches young analysts how to document, escalate, and protect themselves while protecting clients. The first cohort has 12 people. We meet on Tuesday nights in a borrowed conference room. We practice writing clear memos and building timelines that can stand up to heat. We do not rant, we write. Money becomes simple. My emergency fund remains intact. My rent is paid. I move into a secure building with a door staff and cameras. I change my number. I keep a small fireproof box with originals and a flash drive next to it. I add a printed sheet with contacts for counsel, the prosecutor, and my building manager. I keep 3 friends on my emergency list. We have keys to each other's places. We eat soup on Sundays and watch old movies. I sleep through the night. I do not live in a story about revenge. I live in a story about respect. The lesson is blunt and kind at the same time. We teach people how to treat us by what we accept and what we refuse. For years, I accepted the job of peacekeeper and fixer, and the bill always came to my door. The night at the country club, the bill went to the right account. Consequences settled where they belonged. That is the quiet justice I wanted. There is grief here. I grieve the father I wished to have and never did. I grieve the version of family that could have held all of us without cruelty. I let that grief move through me without building a house for it. I also feel relief that runs like clean water. The air in my apartment feels wider. The future does not ask me to contort myself into a shape that fits someone else's story. 3 months after sentencing, I receive a short note from a former employee at Morgan Ridge. She says that the episode helped her decide to speak. She says her team now has a better policy. She thanks me for the chain of custody talk in part 2. I print the note and tape it inside the door of my fireproof box. Proof that quiet work can echo. I keep the receipts, but I stop revisiting them every night. I build new rituals. I ride my bike on the Greenway on Saturday mornings. I cook on Sunday afternoons and let friends leave my kitchen cleaner than they found it. I call my therapist on Thursday mornings and tell the truth without apology. I write my plans in pencil and my boundaries in ink. The ledger is balanced now. The company is sold. The legal cases are resolved. The social optics that once ruled every dinner have lost their hold. My life is not defined by what I fix for other people. It is defined by what I build and protect for myself and for the people who earn a place at my table. Share your similar family experiences in comments. Someone will read your words and find the courage to draw a line, to keep a record, and to step into a life where respect is not begged for, it is expected.